Yep. Hello. Welcome everybody to our session that will tell the, oh my God, it's recording me. It's crazy, isn't it? That will tell the remarkable story of the Arcadia Dragonfly Glastonbury Festival this year, which was quite a thing, and I'm kind of gutted that I wasn't there. Fatboy Slim, who worked with and supported Arcadia for most of the company's days, really, since it did its first Spider at Glastonbury, described the Arcadia team as a collection of lunatics that create beautiful things. And indeed, that is what they are. They push the boundaries on every level. So during this session, all these fabulous people, who are just a few from the whole of the team, led by Pip Rush, creative, and Bertie Cole, who leads the engineering, will explain how they and a bunch of other lunatics harness wild imagination, precision engineering, and technological design skills to create a biomechanical creature from the shell of an ex-military helicopter and 4 1960 diggers that were found in a tip in Ireland, I believe. Yeah?
Yep.
So, here to discuss what it takes to design and technically deliver the Arcadia Dragonfly is Katie Davies, production manager.
Tim Steer?
Yes, Tim, I know that. Tim Steer, who is standing in for Bryan McLean, who couldn't make it because he's got COVID.
Yep, and is in Spain.
Yeah.
And is in Spain. And Dave Whiteoak, who is half of the video delivery people who not only put all the video in, but designed those incredible eyes, which are video screens. So, shall we kick off by you telling us a bit about what you did on the project and the responsibility you had?
Yeah, so I'm Katie, I'm the technical manager. I've been working for Arcadia. I first worked for Arcadia in 2011, and then I took a break, and then I've done a lot of Arcadia since 2015. But I basically started off follow spotting and sort of slowly worked my way up and did a bunch of different jobs on the way up, which was cool. And then, now I'm tech production manager. I was tech production manager of the Spider last year, but obviously that was just repeating something that we'd done before. And this year, I was kind of there from the beginning, going through the whole process with Pip and Bert, working out how to actually deliver all the technical designs.
Excellent.
And then running the team on site.
Katie has quite a story, which we won't fit into half an hour, but we'll try, won't we? Okay.
I'm Tim. Like Katie, I've been involved with Arcadia for, about 10 years. Done a variety of different jobs. I think the first one I did was rewinding a 4 million volt Tesla coil for about 50 quid a long time ago. And nowadays I'm Arcadia's front of house manager. So during show live, I coordinate all the tech departments of the show, of which there are quite a few.
And I'm Dave, part of the video design team. I've worked with Arcadia along with Tim and Katie as well for the last 10 years. We first started out on designing the LED for the Spider, and over the years kind of turned into a Dragonfly. Yeah.
So, as you can imagine, delivering something like this to Glastonbury, it takes a lot of collaborative creative thinking, technical thinking, engineering thinking. And the whole concept was that it would stand in the field looking pretty much like a lot of junk, essentially, old bits of machinery, and that as the evening progressed and the light levels went down, it would follow the pupation process of a dragonfly. And that was all done with video lighting, slowly wake up. And also through the collaboration with Fatboy Slim and the Wudja Noongar Nation from Western Australia, a narrative was built around that. So, Katie, perhaps you can tell us a bit more about that.
So we kind of got this basically, when we started out with this image, which is a render, which was kind of drawn on an iPad. And then this is one of the press shots that we got on like the second night. So we ended up pretty bang on, actually. And this wasn't like, we didn't set it up to make it look like the render. Like someone shared this in a WhatsApp group and then we were like, oh, it looks just like the render. So yeah, then I've got a little video to show. Shall I do that now?
Yeah, go
and then
ahead,
try and
yeah,
answer
yeah.
your question.
Yes, sorry.
And then I got a little video which is the it's just the after movie that we did. It's just 2 minutes long, but it kind of shows the process from like scrap to the final project.
For up to 5 years, Dragonfly exists as a nymph, submerged in the waters of life. And when the time is right, it comes up out of the water and morphs into the beautiful dragonfly that we know today. And when the dragonfly appears in the changing of our seasons, we are reminded that a change is coming. This change is for you, for me, for us as people of the world. We must learn to live within it and understand each other's way of life to bring our cultures together. Nichaba Yiye, right here, right now. May your ancestors and my ancestors create the smile within as we stand together.
So yeah, if you weren't at Glastonbury, hopefully that gives you a bit of a like flavour of what we were up to. I've got a bunch of photos now. I'm just going to let them roll in the background whilst we chat. I'm not going to try and narrate through them, but basically it just shows the design and build process from when we initially started the renders through to some press shots of the final thing. So hopefully that's just going to go in the background. But yeah, so your question was about collaboration.
Well, my question's about collaboration because when you look at something like that, then, you know, there's so many things that could go wrong and so many different people that you have to pull together, and there's a budget to be thought about. So you have to decide which those people are going to be and what they're going to do to make a military helicopter transform over an evening into a believable, crazy dragonfly and an otherworldly, amazing, magical place to dance and perform. So how do you take Bertie and Pip's ideas and then pull your team together to create this thing?
So I think we were lucky because we were working on the framework of the spider, basically. So the spider was quite a slow evolution. It sort of slowly grew to where it was with Metamorphosis, and it sort of grew with the company. With the Dragonfly, we kind of wanted to hit the ground running a little bit more. Like we wanted to go with like a bit more of a finished product from something that looked a bit more of a finished product. But yeah, I started out by basically I drew a big diagram of what all the different job roles should be, and then obviously a lot of those job roles were filled by people that we already had an existing relationship with. They already knew the sort of framework that we work to, and also with suppliers, like we have existing relationships with Video Illusions, with Ava Lights, with Mirad, with Roby, with AF Live, like a lot of the people. So obviously, you know, we approached those people first, and yeah, that's how I sort of started the process anyway, yeah. And then also in January, when it all felt a bit overwhelming, I just wrote like a massive list of every single job that needed to happen, which was like 170 like things basically, and some of them were like quite big, like do the video design, or not personally do it, but it needed to be done. And then I like color coded it all by department, and then I sort of wrote who would mostly be doing it and what the team would be, and I had a little like thing to tick it off whether it had done or not. I sent it to a couple of people. I don't think anyone ever actually looked at it, but it did help me. Like every like couple of months, I'd like open it up and I'd just like tick off a few things, and then like everything slowly turned from like red to green, and that made me feel like, okay, we're going through the process a bit. That seemed like a sort of project management type thing to do.
So
but,
it didn't scare you, that list?
Well, no. Once you've got it in a list, then you know what you've forgotten to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was how I did it. But yeah, basically working and building alongside the existing relationships that we had helped a lot.
So a big spreadsheet and an A team of people.
And a lot of
I think.
WhatsApp groups, a ridiculous amount of WhatsApp groups. Yeah.
Yeah, because, I mean, every single discipline had to imagine their way through the ideas that Pip and Bertie had. They hadn't technically imagined all of it, had they? Everybody had to come up with how they're going to deliver that, how they're going to make it happen, how they're going to do it on budget, how they're going to do it in the timescale. I mean, with the eyes, you had to have them manufactured somewhere else, but you first had to design how those eyes sat on.
Oh yeah, we got a phone call from Pip and Bert in like October last year, and we got this crazy design. Do you want to be involved with it? And we're like, well, yeah, okay. And then obviously when he showed us the plans, we're looking and thinking, 6 months, 7 months, you know, we're gonna have enough time to turn this around. But being the yes men that we are, like, yeah, of course we can. And then obviously they didn't sign the budget off until months later. So we was like, come on, we've got to get this done, otherwise we're gonna run out of time. But yeah, we kind of went with it and designed this crazy design. There's a good picture of it there. In really no time at all, and obviously not having enough time to fully test it until we was actually in the field at Glastonbury was pretty interesting. So obviously we tested 8 panels in our warehouse when we finally got the final design finished, and then obviously think, yeah, those other 200 panels would be totally fine. You know.
Hooray, they were.
Yeah. But yeah, so it was an interesting one for us, but yeah, somehow we all managed to deliver it.
And I'm guessing that none of you all came together in the same space until you were actually in Glastonbury. And
Dave and Ben did actually come down to the yard whilst we were building it. So we built the body of it at the yard, which is just outside Bristol in Somerset. And yeah, you guys came down and had a little look once the head had been made. I think the head wasn't mounted on the body, was it? And it was like pouring with rain.
Kind of on the floor, but we had to
come up with
a design on how the hexagons and the pentagons would fit to the frame of the eyes, and obviously that changed. And obviously all the fabricators had done this amazing work, and by the time we actually got to site, I think it was a day before we got there, it was like, actually all of those 200 and whatever hexagons need to change. And they were like, nice, this is great. And but somehow within 48 hours, they managed to reposition all these brackets, and they were like spot on. Every single one was millimetre perfect. So yeah, it was quite touch and go, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, I think that was a good example of the collaboration between all the different teams, because like the video screen was quite complex. Like basically, it came in pairs, and it was mostly hexagons, and there was a few pentagons. Like at the end, it'll get to a picture of Dragonfly. I'll try and point it out. But basically, to make it tessellate correctly, you needed like a few pentagons to like make it sit together. And then the video panels were split into like master and slave units, so they were in pairs. And then all the pentagons had to be slaves. And the master and slave units had like different like depth receiver cards. Anyway, I'm probably getting too in depth, but it basically meant that every single bracket had to go in like a slightly different position depending on whether it was a hexagon or whether it was a pentagon or whether it was under the floor or whether it was not under the floor. And we welded that all in one day on site at Glastonbury. And it was really hectic. I had a picture of it earlier. I'll probably flip back and show you. But basically, we had like 6 welders all in the structure, and then we had like a lampy either side of the welders with a drawing, and they were like, right, that one needs to be there, that one needs to be there, and everyone was in there just like desperately welding it all together. It was probably one of my favourite days that day, actually. But yeah, I think that was that was like the tech team and the build team like really working like closely together to pull that off.
I'm pretty sure we were getting called some names that day, but you know.
Yeah, you guys are coming the next day, and I was like, they're coming the next day, and it's like, when are they coming? 9, and it's like, can you guys come at like 1? And then you're like, we can come at 6 if you want. And I was like, no, 1.
And I think that's what really amazes me is that, you know, most people who turn up at Glastonbury, they come and they go, wow, that's amazing, and da-da-da. But they might think it's a bit Heath Robinson, they might think it's a bit thrown together. But it's like precision engineering, precision health and safety. Sustainability has been thought about on a major level. The sound system had to be designed way ahead of time with Vanguardia, who are the sound limitation people. Exactly. You tell us about Vanguardia, darling.
Yes, okay. I'll try and do my best because Bryan, our sound engineer, couldn't make it today. So I'll try and describe the sound system. But the challenge with Arcadia is we're a late night rave venue on top of a hill, and we run from about 9 p.m. till 3 a.m. and hold 50,000 people who all expect it to be banging and loud at that time. And there are a lot of people that live around the Pilton area that don't want to hear the sound of an MC over drum and bass at 3 in the morning. So it's a uniquely challenging space to design the system for, and the system we've ended up with has been the result of incremental tweaking over a decade, really. Pip and Bert are very keen. Quite a few of us come from a sort of rave background. Pip and Bert are very keen to have that immersive feeling, the feeling that you get being in a club where the sound is coming from all around you. And the reason we do these 360 stages is because we're really not keen on the idea of the traditional stage format with the act on the stage, a row of security guards, mojo, speakers facing forward, and then the crowd stood watching the screen. So everything we do, the word immersive is used a lot nowadays, isn't it? But that does describe what we do. There's flame, lighting, lasers, sound coming from everywhere, which is great. But we're breaking a lot of the rules of sound design by having, the classic Arcadia sound system is a 6-point hexagonal system, six main hangs, all pointing in. So there's a lot of crossover between those, and it's a nightmare for coherency. And it also means you can't just point the thing in one direction away from the village that it's going to annoy. So the 6-point sound system, we had it sounding great this year, and we've had a lot of feedback saying it was the best it's ever sounded.
And were there many complaints from Pilton?
No, there really weren't this year. It went down well. I was sat in front of house with the chap from Vanguardia, who we work very closely with. We've got a good relationship with them. He was really happy, and we were able to. We barely turned it down, even on the Sunday night.
Yeah. That's what Bryan said, was that you could really push the limits of the sound, and because you'd worked with Vanguardia throughout the process, it meant that the automatic thing wasn't just pulling the volume down. It was like, we can tweak this, we could adjust that, or whatever. Yeah,
so Bryan did a lot of the work in advance with Vanguardia. Did a lot of, you'll probably see some of the plots come up at some point, but modelled all of the sound coverage, and what we found was actually just tweaking the orientation of the PA by 15 degrees resulted in a huge reduction in some of the more problematic areas. So being able to model that, having the new Al Acoustics L2 system, that was really key to that as well. So we used that for the first time last year. So the L2 is quite a clever sort of line array system, and it's a cardioid box. People pay a lot of attention to designing sophisticated subarrays that reject a lot to the rear. But actually, your main hangs, they'll often throw a lot of 50 hertz out the back of them. So you can have a really fancy sub-array, but if you've got, a standard sort of hang, that's throwing sub-bass for a long way behind. So having these L2 boxes that, they throw very little LF out the back of them, that was a real game changer. And they sound great. And I don't know what L Acoustics have done over the last year. It sounds like they've probably refined the presets for them a bit, because it sounded crisp this year. And we had two very talented engineers from L Acoustics, Sergey and Sergey, with us on site, and they were the two Sergeys. They were busy tweaking it all and making it as good as it could possibly sound.
I so wish I was there. As I said, I need a job next year. But anyway, and the other thing where Arcadia, there's a very holistic approach to what Arcadia does. It's holistic because it comes from that kind of rave scene and immersing yourself in something and wanting to immerse everybody else in it and them to feel it and to have a story around a stage, and then for the DJs to actually see the stage as the event instead of, hey, Fatboy Slim is playing Arcadia. It's like, no, I need to play that place, or do you know what I mean? And then the audience are there for the same reason. It's very democratic. I love that. But the other thing about it is that, the approach to the environment and bringing that into the story of Arcadia in such a big way, because you ran it. There's some of it you can't speak about, but there is a lot of it that you can. So go for it. And let's just say you beat Massive Attack.
So we work quite closely along with Glastonbury, who obviously have a lot of sustainable and eco-friendly initiatives and stuff. And just the fact that we're making the stage out of recycled, reclaimed materials is a good start, I think. But also this year we ran the flames off bioethanol. So last year we ran them off HVO, and then before that they're gas flames. You can see here. There's a big squirt of bioethanol. I mean, we work really closely. We used external. We used to do all our special effects in-house, but this year we used an external company. We worked really closely with Aardvark. So they were using the Galaxis system. I think it was either the G flames or the L flames. I can't quite remember whichever ones are the big ones. And we built them into. So we made these flaming bulrushes. So we built the flame heads into the top of that, and then we had pump stations at the bottom, and then they. Did quite a lot of R&D to make the system work off bioethanol, because obviously that's not what it's designed for. And all of that bioethanol was sourced locally in Somerset, actually, which is quite cool. That was quite a long R&D process, because no one's actually done that before on this scale, especially not because we were running the flames for 5 hours a night. And obviously Arcadia is known for its flames. We used to have the massive gas flames, so we definitely needed a good flame system, but we're trying to move away from fossil fuels, which is why we ended up with this. It was also a low voltage solution as well. They all run off trickle chargers and batteries in the top head, so it doesn't use is efficient on power as well. And we also ran our stage off batteries this year, which were provided by Grid Fairies, which is a collaboration between Claire O'Neill and Dale Vince. So we also worked with Agreco and had generators for some of the overall traders and bars and stuff like that. But the actual stage itself was run off batteries, which were charged off-site before we got there with solar and wind energy, and then brought to site fully charged. And then we just ran off that charge, essentially. Obviously, we did also have backup generators. We didn't run them in sync, though, but they were available if there was a problem. Obviously, you can't just run a stage like this and lose power. That's just, unacceptable. So, it was more of a, R&D and a test of the process rather than,
mention was that the screens had to be semi-transparent so that you could see the actor inside, and so that meant that all your control gubbins and everything had to be really minimized, didn't it? And then between you and Ben created what is the technical term for when you make a thing that maps the screens.
UV map.
UV map,
Oh,
thank
yeah, that's the one.
thank you. Which I'm just learning about, but oh my God, fascinating.
Yeah.
And so created the UV map so that all the content that was created by Joe Crossley and his team at Astral Project
Yeah.
could be run, and you kind of got a weird holographic. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously when we got the phone call, and obviously back on October, obviously I had to work out, how we were going to deliver this and who was the best people to bring on, and so on and so on and so on. So, obviously Ben Vaughan from Cucumber Productions, he was obviously first point of call, and obviously me and Ben go way back and do a lot of, I've done a lot of work together. And, obviously bringing him on board, he's got a great knowledge and technical knowledge. And, even in that short space of time, we kind of had to work out exactly what you just said, work out how we're going to fit the receiver cards, the power cards, everything into the receiver casing of the back of the hexagons. But during that time, obviously, Ben's still, working on the UV map and exactly on how to deliver the content maps for Joe and that to create the content. And it was a difficult project to work on in such a short space of time, but delivering it like we did was a little bit worrying, but we did it, and you can see there we delivered it well. And there's so much transparency of it. Even when we created it, we knew what we were making. It was like standing back and actually see it in real life, even to ourselves. We're just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, exactly.
It's pretty interesting. So.
Yeah, we were stood in front of house and just watching the VJs just experiment and play with this thing, and it just got better and better, and they were playing with the transparency.
Rendered in real time, on Unity and Touch Designer.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, they're using game engines and joysticks and all sorts of random stuff, and they're just wizards, those guys.
Yeah, I just love the fact that there is no one particularly, I mean there is in a way, but in control. There's just all these amazing people creating this magical thing.
Yeah, there's no hierarchy.
On a massive scale.
Yeah. Everyone's there to do one thing and make something cool.
Also, I think one thing that's kind of unusual on a festival stage is, like, obviously everyone's busking, like we're not touring any production. There's no artists are touring production. But like on this, Pip, who's the creative director, was like on comms in the audience, going around giving like live lighting direction to Dave, the LD, video direction, laser direction, and like during that process, which like happened over 5 hours on comms, there's 50 people on comms and 8 comms channels. That's quite unusual, and I think that allows that kind of collaboration, because you have that like one vision that's driving every single independent person, so someone doesn't go off and do one thing with the lasers and someone else is doing something else with the lights. You need to like draw all those different technical departments together to make a Dragonfly and not just make a rave under a helicopter. And
I think that's it. When most artists go to a festival, they take a sound engineer, a lighting person, the video person, a load of kit, la 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 la. But these artists, they just rock up and the whole thing's there for them already, and they play it, and they trust your team to allow them, to interact with the artist and create the content, the lighting, and feel so like you're part of the act. And that is like, must be so exciting, I think. Wish I was. Anyway, not jealous. We were going to sort of give 15 minutes for questions. Obviously, you could all talk forever about this, and I could be asking questions forever. But does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask? People never want to ask. Oh, yay! Hello.
It looks like a complete health and safety nightmare. Like you've got all these aspects that you're doing on site, which means that you've not necessarily tested, and all it takes is one weld to not be right, and something's falling on somebody and hurting themselves. What's the process on site that means that you can sign it off and know that you can sleep and know no one's going to get hurt? Yeah,
so we do actually have a system for that. Like, Bert, who's our who leads the engineering, is the technical director. He basically says that Arcadia do dangerous things safely. Like, it may look dangerous what we're doing, but it is not dangerous. Like, we've got a 360-degree stage, so we've got the audience essentially on the stage, like underneath the stage. So every single department, they'll do a structural sign-off of each individual element. So like once it's fully installed, they'll check, they'll test every weld, they'll look at every single thing, every safety cable, every bolt is correct, everything that you can check. They do that structural sign-off and they say, okay, we've done that, we've done the install, and the show's ready to open. And then every single day, that all gets revisited. So the lampies will be climbing around the towers every single day, checking every single ratchet strap that nothing's burnt through, and we have those sign-offs that come in every day. That all comes into the stage manager, and not until they've got a sign-off from every single department do we know that we're safe to open the show. And that's obviously developed over the years of working with all the aerialists and stuff for the Spider, who are working very near all the flame systems. So yeah, we do have a very tight health and safety system for making sure that it's safe and that no one gets hurt.
Yeah, and as for the actual superstructure of the Dragonfly itself, that was engineered off-site by an engineering company, so that wasn't something that was, knocked together on site. So that was, we know all the welds, the sound on that and everything.
Put a bunch of legends together, anything can happen safely.
We also had the head moving as well, which was very similar to being in a pickle basket, I would say, and trying to get the DJs on board with that. Like, some of them were like, oh, I get motion sick, and they're like, no way. But some of them were like, hell yeah. And that was, doing that and coming up with the procedures to do that safely. But, there's an E-stop in there, and there's a stage manager right behind them, like ready to help if there's any kind of problems, and all the cables are like swagged out of the way of it, and we tested it. Yeah, we even had like an emergency escape ladder for just in case there was a fire in the body and someone needed to like escape out of the head. Like,
the comm system plays a big part in that as well, doesn't it?
We didn't talk about the comm system, did we? Yeah, that's.
We use a fairly extensive ClearComm system. We've got a dedicated comms engineer that's worked with us for years. Everything's protected with UPS. It's a vital line of communication for all of the, sort of 50 packs or something we've got running during the show. So we can rely on that, and if anything goes down, we've got lines of communication, we've got protocols in place, because from a crowd management point of view, it can get pretty hairy when who finished on the pyramid and the other stage that night with Eric Prydz, and suddenly
everyone was pouring up.
Suddenly we had a few tens of thousands of people walking up the hill to, it's like a sea of people.
But our live event ops are in the crowd. They're communicating on comms to the rest of the team what's going on. Like, if there's a problem near, for example, one of the special effects stations, or there's a medical issue, like, we can shut off that particular station. If there's drones in the air, if there's helicopters, we can turn off the lasers. So, like, we're all communicating, and there's a team of people on the ground communicating with us what's going on in the crowd as well. So it's quite, like, holistic in how we manage it all.
Any other questions? This lady here. Do you,
Need a microphone?
Oh, you had the mic. Oh, I'm so sorry. I have it sent back to you. No, you go, yeah.
I was really interested in what you were saying about having the creative director on comms over an extended period and communicating between departments. Can you elaborate more on how that worked as a system? And
so we've got one main comms channel that everyone talks on, and then we've got individual extra like departmental channels. So we have one that's just called front of house comms, which Pip talks on that channel. So if there's some kind of like emergency, like, that channel can be turned down and we can like focus on the show if that needs to happen. And then that channel has basically got the laser operator, the lighting designer, the video guys, it's got the special effects operator. They're all on that channel together, and Pip, like, there was a few looks that developed over the night, and he named those looks. Like, there was a point where we make it look like a helicopter. There's a point where there was a look that we called the right here, right now look, which like was part of the show. And he would be like, okay, right, guys, on the next drop, I want to go to this look. And then he'd like sometimes count it in, or people would listen for the drop. And we've also got a readout of the CDJs in front of house so that we can see what's going on. We can see where all the drops are and everything. So he sort of like coordinates all of that. Obviously, that's not called on like a second by second basis, because that's just unsustainable for everyone. But I think it allows everyone to come together, him to communicate his like overall creative design, and then after that people have got a little bit of freedom to like busk and stuff. So by the end of by the Sunday night, he wasn't on comms at all, and people were a bit more relaxed and they were like busking. in a bit more of a traditional way, but you do need that like bit of direction at the front, because essentially you're about to do something that you haven't rehearsed. We do actually do in the dress rehearsal, we get the lampies up there DJing, and we like run a rehearsal with busking for like an hour just so that everyone can practice, and obviously everyone loves DJing up there, but just to get people like get because this is a completely new structure that we've never done before, and there's only so much that you can previs. So yeah, that's how it works.
Thank you so much.
Sorry, got to get up again.
So from what I can tell, the Arcadia has never really had a stage that has a major moving element or animatronic element to it. You've got a lot of video content, you've got a lot of sound gear inside the head. Were there any unexpected challenges that came from having a lot of those connections be moving through the space?
I don't think so. I mean, the spider had the moving element of had 3 cranes mounted on the top of it,
Oh yeah,
and a crane driver operating each one. And those cranes, they were all truck high-abs, and they would pick performers up out of the crowd and dump them into Zorbs and shoot CO2 at each other and things like that. So actually, compared to that, just having a head slewing around gently, it wasn't too difficult. Just to allow a bit of a swag in all of your cables, and nothing gets mangled. So we're going to introduce potentially more moving elements in the future.
Yeah, so the front arms actually move, and we move them into the position that they're at on hydraulics, but that's not. We didn't build a control system or anything for that, so that's potentially something that we can develop over the next few years.
With the moving arms this year, obviously they had to pause them in a certain position because they was worried that if it lost control, it was going to crush the eyes.
Yes,
So
so
yeah,
we're
engineer was
going to
like,
get
maybe we
we're going to
should
get
pause
those
that.
arms moving again in future, but we need to put hard and soft limits in the hydraulics to avoid pinching the head off a DJ or something, which would be embarrassing.
And those are actually quite low in the crowd as well, so like there's still a fair bit of R&D to do there to work out how to do that safely. But yeah.
Anyone else got quite? Oh, one at the back there.
Could I just ask, how much does it cost to buy an ex-military helicopter, and how do you go?
I actually don't know because that line wasn't in my budget, but I don't reckon it's that much. Like, I don't know, they're very resourceful with their budget, so I wouldn't think that it would be. We've actually got 2. I think we got more than 2.
They
yeah.
got a few, didn't they?
We got a few, yeah. And one was on top of the container, and the other one was on the ground fridge, and everyone spent a lot of time arguing about which one was bigger, but they were both the same.
And where do you find them? Is it just in a specialist scrapyard, or?
Yeah, I think he got that one on eBay, but I don't do the scrap finding. Pip and Bert do that, and I know that they've travelled all over the world for various different projects looking for scrap. So yeah, I think that's a fun part of the job for them, is digging around and seeing what they can get.
Sourcing the scrap.
Sourcing the scrap, yeah.
Thank you.
There was somebody over that side, was there? No? Oh, I thought I saw something. Is there anybody else got a question while we're here?
The sort of hexagonal video panels, were they custom made, or did you take an existing product and?
Yeah, that was all fully custom made, and obviously that was the worrying part of taking the job on when Pip and Bert called us in October, because we only really had like 6 or 7 months to build a product that didn't exist, and obviously, as you can see, they're quite unique compared to what other products are on the market. But yeah, we've obviously worked with Pip and Bert quite a lot over the years, and they know that what we can deliver, and if we say we can deliver, we're going to deliver it. But yeah, it was obviously a little bit worrying of how we were going to deliver it. But when me and Ben got together and just bashed minds together, you know, we always managed to deliver it. And yeah, it kind of worked out all right. I mean, there are a few tweaks that we'd like to do on it, you know, moving into the future. But, you know, the product as it turned up after, you know, all the final designs worked. But yeah.
and the head is separate to the body, and then the tail. The first time we ever saw the tail was on site actually, and that got bolted on site because end to end it's about 30 meters.
Yeah.
So obviously that's way too big for a low loader. But yeah.
Right, great. I think we've actually, unless there's more questions, we've actually come to the end. Excellent, chaps. Unless there's anything else you want to say. You want to say anything? You?
Oh, good.
Excellent. Thanks for coming.
Nice one. Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.